It's a perfect time to be talking about goals and resolutions, but while it's a great time to do this, sometimes you're not sure where to start. You could possibly get stuck. So instead of diving into all the details first, now is the time to create your perfect power word for this year. It's a simple process, but that one word can guide you and bring you back to focus throughout the year. So if you haven't done it, this video is going to give you 3 simple steps to walk you through the process. So now the beauty of this lies in its simplicity. If you have been on videos before, you know that I move through pretty quickly. So drop the word in the comments below. And what I'm going to do is send you the show notes. But I also have a word of the year guide that's got more detail than even what I'm going to be sharing with you in the video today. So make sure and drop the comment below. Now, I'm Joyce Layman, and I help coaches and consultants to attract and connect with their ideal clients online using simple social systems so they can generate more leads and make a bigger impact without getting overwhelmed in the process. One of the first things I do in January is I take my clients through a goal setting process, but I always back up to the word of the year because that one word, as I said, can give you clarity, it can give you focus, it can bring you right back to where you need to be when you've got bright, shiny object syndrome running through your brain, you've got other squirrel moments, maybe you're hitting one of those days where things just aren't going right. That's what your power word is designed to do. Now, you don't have to make, as I said, a dozen resolutions. In fact, research shows that the majority of people who set New Year's resolutions actually fall off the bandwagon by the 3rd week in January. It's pretty crazy, but part of that goes to how the mind works. I'm not going to get into the conscious and subconscious, but anytime you're doing something that pushes you outside your comfort zone, you're internally wired to resist change. So that's why, as I said, instead of mapping out an entire goals process, which we're actually going to be doing a reverse goals process free workshop tomorrow, but start with your word of the year. So step number 1, what you want to do is brainstorm. There are several different ways to do it. So I would love to know if you have done a word of the year before and you've gone through this exercise, then drop yes in the comments. I would love to know that because if you've actually done a word of the year process before, it's a little bit easier. Sometimes your word of the year might even start coming to you in December. If you haven't dropped the word, and I see I've got a comment, so yes, okay. And if you haven't done it, then also make sure, and that's why I said it's going to take a little bit longer. So if you want the show notes, drop the word. All right, so with that, the first step is brainstorm. This doesn't have to be complicated. There are a couple of ways you can do this. So if you think about, and this needs to apply personally and professionally, one word, personally and professionally. It needs to encompass both. So think about like what areas you want to grow in, what habits you want to change. Sometimes it's that simple to get you started. Another way to think about it too is if there's something like it's that comfort zone that you want to push. You know that if you do this one thing, then it can help you do all the other things. So as for example, when I started my business back in 2008, public speaking was my second biggest fear. Heights was number 1, but I knew if I could overcome that fear, that would open up all these things. So as you're thinking through this, as I said, sometimes it's a comfort zone. You do this and it triggers all of the above. Sometimes it's simply a habit. Sometimes it's just, it could be that feel good, that reminder. You know, what I did is, in fact, a Facebook message popped up, or not a Facebook message, a Facebook memory popped up. My word 5 years ago was 𝗓𝗏𝘓. Say that 10 times fast. But the definition when I saw it, because I was reading a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up, and it was fantastic, but it was about being in that space that nothing was going to get you off center. Nothing was, you were going to be in that peace and that zen and that focus all the time. So that's why I chose that word. So sometimes, as I said, it can come out of the blue. But with that, here's some questions. As I said, these questions are also in the word of the year guide. So think about like what energizes you. Is there a habit that you want to change? What stresses you out? Is there something that distracts you all the time? What do you enjoy? What are you great at doing that you also enjoy? What do you enjoy but you could get better at doing? As I said, you need to think about this in your personal life and your professional life. All right, so what do you enjoy doing but maybe not doing that well? That's an area of improvement. So as you think about areas of improvement, what is the most important thing in your life? What is that when you think about your vision, your purpose, your mission? What is that one thing that you're driving for, that guiding light? Because sometimes that's where your word's going to pop up. What do you want more in your life? So maybe it's joy, maybe it's abundance. When we're talking abundance, it isn't necessarily money. I mean, it could be an abundance of health, an abundance of friends, great quality friends. I'm not talking about the people who follow you on social media, but abundance can tie into a lot of different things. So what do you want more of in your life? What do you want to let go of? What are you afraid of? Asking that question can also trigger those comfort zones. And so sometimes it's that one word that when that fear comes up and you say it, then it just kind of blocks the belief, or it pushes that negativity, that negative or limiting self-talk out of the way. Another great way to look at it is if you looked back on, say we're a year from now, we're at January. Oh my God, we're at the beginning of January 2023. So think about if you're at the beginning of January 2024 and you look back on 2023, what would you be most excited about accomplishing? So these are all great things to ask yourself. So the part of the brainstorming process is, now that you've got all these ideas swirling in your brain, if you're a little overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, take your top 5. If you've never done this before, take your top 5 words that immediately pop in. Part of this is not to overthink it. If you do, then maybe that needs to be, maybe it's decision becomes your word. So don't overthink it, but come up with the top 5 words that resonate with you and write them down. The trick is then you want to walk away. You want to let your subconscious take a break, because sometimes brainstorming doesn't always give you the answer that you're looking for. Great example. Have you ever walked into a room to get something and you completely forgot what it was that you were looking for? But then when you leave the room, it pops in. It's the same thing when it comes to brainstorming. So that's where you want to put a lot down on paper and then just let it go. Let it simmer and see what comes up. Now, the thing to remember, there is no right or wrong with this. Absolutely no right or wrong when it comes to your word of the year. What matters is you are choosing a word that speaks directly to you, where you're at right now in your life. Okay? Now, the second thing is you've got your top 5. So you've done your brainstorming and you've got your top 5. So you are going to narrow that down even more so. And so this is where you kind of think through each word and what really resonates and what really sticks. And I've done this enough times that I don't put mine down on paper, but I come up with words. I'll stick them on a Post-it note, but they are top of mind for me. And then I just kind of germinate on them for a little bit to see what's there. So if you think, here's a few examples. So if you want to think about something that encompasses a lot of different change and growth opportunities into one word, it could be growth, it could be clarity, it could be focus, because these, as I said, can apply both personally and professionally. If there's something that you need to change in your life, then maybe it could be patience or persistence. So if you think about, you have that habit that you've been wanting to change, you know that you've tried to do it. And by the way, research shows on average, it takes 67 days to create a new habit. I know you've probably heard 21 days to create a habit. That's not how it works. That is the initial starting point that was done in the research. You just don't read that all the time. But on average, it takes 67 days to create a new habit. As a person who used to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day and I'd smoke a pack at night, I am your living proof. I literally had said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I had one last cigarette with a girlfriend. We drank a bottle of champagne, never picked up a cigarette again. That was in my late 20s. So there are things that when you are persistent, or when you are determined, or when you decide is such a great, powerful word too. But when you do that, then it's like, and the rest just into place. So then you're like, hey, I accomplished that. What else can I accomplish? All right. So as I said, think about how the word ties into everything else, then sit with it. And then once you do that, once you've said, all right, here's the 5 words, maybe here's the 3, and then here are the 2, maybe it gets into a tie and it's like, I know what they are. Then step 3 is it's time to take action. Now, I will tell you what's been coming up with me. I have 1 word, and then I have one that is 2 words that I have been attempting to make a decision on. So the first is decide. And decide is always, when did you decide to do that? Are you deciding to move forward? So it's about decision. The second is imperfect action. When I use the words imperfect action, and if that resonates with you, feel free to use it. But when I think of the words imperfect action, it applies personally and professionally. How I see that is sometimes you get caught up in that, you got to do it and do it and do it until it's absolutely perfect before you put the piece of content out, before you post the blog, before you do whatever. Take imperfect action, because action sparks additional action. So if you're not waiting to be perfect and you take imperfect action, then you might be surprised at the results that you get. So that's where I said I'm at. Is it decide for me, or is it not take imperfect action, but just the words imperfect action? Because I know when I hear that, what that means as far as the intention. So think about the word and the intention behind it. Think about what you visualize when you say that word. What is that visual, what's that visual that pops up for you? And can you use it with anything and everything that you're doing? And if you want to use 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏, that's great. Like I said, I didn't create that word. It was from an author that I'd read. So, okay. Now, here's the next step, very critical piece of taking action. Either Post-it notes, write it with an erasable marker. You can put this on your bathroom mirror, depending on the type of refrigerator that you have. Maybe you've got a whiteboard in your room, 3x5 note cards. Write that word down. Because what happens is, as we're in the process of creating new habits, where we're wiring new neural pathways, when you put that reminder up, and you can put it lots of different places, then what happens is, as you're moving through your day, then it's that, to your subconscious, there it is. That's what I need to be focusing on. Because otherwise, if you go through this process, you write it down, you stick it in a drawer, the odds that you are going to remember it and take action on it diminish significantly. So that's why write it down so you can visually see it. I also use the same process when creating affirmations and affirmations, because one word can trigger your subconscious as far as what you need to be doing. So the other cool thing about this is when you think about, so you've got your word of the year, then you start the goals process. Now, maybe like I started my goal planning process back in October, the things that I wanted to do so I could get them accomplished. However, because of some of the things that I've already achieved, and then another couple of things came up, I'm like, all right, so I need to tweak my goals for the next 90 days. So the cool thing about when you take action on this word, then it can help to bring you back to focus of, is this what I need to be doing right now? Does this speak to my mission and vision for the year? I gotta love when updates keep popping up on my computer during a live. But it's like, if, say your goal is to launch, you want to launch a new offer, or maybe you want to go live weekly, then consistency. Maybe that word is consistency. So then you can actually tie it into, here's the new offer that I want to create. Here's how I'm going to market the offer. This is how I'm going to show up for my business. Hopefully this is making sense. So that one word can actually tie back into your goals. As I said, initially, it should be personal and professional, how it works, but use that word to help keep you on track as you're moving through the year. The other cool thing, as I mentioned at the beginning, maybe you're having one of those days or one of those weeks. We're coming out of a pandemic and we've all been there. And, sometimes we've just had times that absolutely suck. So with that one word can help lift you up, and it can give your subconscious that way that keeps you focused on what you need to do next versus getting stuck in a pity party. I always say, as one who's experienced way too much grief in my life, with the loss of parents, a brother, and a horse in a barn fire, good Lord. Anyway, as one who's experienced that, yes, we're all entitled to have pity parties. We're entitled to have bad days. You just don't stay long, and you don't invite anybody. So with that word of the year is what can help pick you up and move you forward. So the other thing is that word of the year can remind you, why did you set the goals in the first place? What's making you run to the end of 2023 and you're so excited for this year and you're motivated to take action in your business, so it can become that guiding light for you. So as I said, with that, I have created a word of the year guide. Words have power. I update it a little bit every single year. So if you want to have this, it's got more information as well as my favorite word resource that way you can go and do a lot of keyword search. And I think I've got over 50 different words that you can use in here to create your word of the year. Okay. So with that, I always like to do a quick recap at the end, because I have some people, they want the video short, which I always post over on my YouTube channel. And so here's your recap to help you choose the perfect word of the year for you in 2023. So in case you're wondering, you've never had a word of the year before, this is that one word that inspires you, empowers you. It keeps you focused on your mission, your vision, your goal. It basically encompasses everything that you want to accomplish in the year ahead. The cool thing is the simple act of thinking through one single word. It can help you keep on track for your goals. It can lift you up if you're having one of those days, but truly it's the clarity and focus process. So with that, here are 3 steps to help you create your perfect power word. The first is you want to brainstorm. The easiest way to do this is ask yourself questions. Your subconscious responds differently when you ask questions versus you're trying to brainstorm and go, what's my perfect word? I'm not sure what my perfect word is. So asking questions can help you define the word that you want to create. So think about, what's the most important thing in my life? What is that one thing that I want to accomplish? Is there one comfort zone? I keep pushing against this comfort zone and I need to overcome it, or that limiting belief that I had. And one of my favorites is if you look back a year from now at everything you've accomplished, what is one word that encompasses that? So once you've done your brainstorming process, you might come up with 20 words. You might come up with just a couple. If you've got a bunch, write down your top 5. And then the next thing is you want to narrow it down. So step 2 is narrow down your words. And this is where one of the things that I do is I look at, it always goes back to, what is that word? How does that impact me personally? How does that impact me professionally? Can I use it on both sides of the equation? But I give myself time to sit, to think, to germinate on it. Now, if you try to pressure your subconscious, it doesn't work. So once you get to that short list of your power words, then figure out which one resonates with you the most, or which 2 resonate with you the most. Think about how that word ties back into everything. And then make sure at the end of the time that it really goes, that's it. And typically what's going to happen is you're going to get that's the word that I need to be using. Now, as an example with me, I'm in the decision process. So the first word that came to me was decide. So with decide, it's always a decision. Even not making a decision is a decision, by the way. So decide is something, it's extremely powerful. It's like, when did you decide that? That limiting belief comes in and you're like, when did I decide that? So the second thing, or the second word, it's actually 2 words, is imperfect action. So I know that can apply to anything and everything, because if you take action, then action creates more action. Even if it's small steps and it's imperfect action, that means you're stepping up, you're showing up, you're there in your business. So those are the two words, or two, I should say, word and then phrase that I'm going to make a decision on by the end of the day. That's the other thing, is you don't want to say, oh, I'm going to decide my word of the year by the end of January. You need to decide now. Gotta love technology, how it's popping up. Okay, so step number 3 is take action. So as I said, you want to make sure you're deciding on your word. Once you've chosen your word, then don't stick it in a drawer. Don't write it in your planner and then you forget about it. What you want to do, my favorite things to actually trigger the word in your subconscious, is put it on Post-it notes. You can put it on 3x5 cards. I use the same process when I'm writing affirmations. I also write with an erasable, you can do a marker on like the mirror in your bathroom. I will stick a card in my visor in my car. So that way, wherever I am, then it always is starting to trigger. I'll stick a Post-it note on the corner of my desktop upstairs. So part of the thing to keep in mind is once you decide to take action, then know that seeing that word on a regular basis, I have some of my clients, they make screensavers on their laptop. Or you can even put it on your mobile, which is fantastic because every time you pick up your phone, you're going to see your word. You can easily do that in Canva, upload it, and there you go. You've got a screensaver. So keep in mind this one word. It can help you when it comes to goals. It can help you when it comes to making decisions. It's like if you have to make the decision and go, does this keep me on track with the word of the year that I've picked? Does this keep me on track with my inner vision? Say, for example, that you're wanting to be consistent. So consistent is your word. You've got a new offer that you're launching, or maybe you want to consistently show up doing short form video, or consistently posting content, or maybe consistently going to networking events, or reaching out and consistently having conversations online. So there's lots of ways that that can apply, but make sure that that one word comes back and it helps to guide you back on track in the process. So think about it today or tomorrow. As I said, if you want my word of the year guide, it's super simple, but I've got a bunch of words already here. And then my favorite word search, in case you don't see your perfect word, gives you a little bit more insight. Of course, you can go back and watch the show notes. So if you want the show notes for the entire training, then drop the word show notes below. You're also going to find a link. I attach those in the comments as well, so they're easy to grab. But that way you can get started on your word of the year. So with that, Happy New Year. I'm so thrilled you're here. And if you are looking for more information when it comes to building your brand, building your visibility, creating offers, marketing your content, and creating simple systems, then follow me for more information. And I know it's last minute, but I am doing a reverse goal getting workshop. It is free tomorrow afternoon. It is Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. And anybody that shows up and says yes, that they want the training, then you're going to get access to the replay. So even if you can't catch it this week, or even if you catch this video in a month or 6 months, guess what? That reverse goal getting training is going to be there. And a lot of it gets into mindset. And we're really going to take what you're wanting to accomplish this year when it comes to revenue, and then we're going to back it up in an entirely different way that you're probably not familiar with. So with that, I cannot wait to see what your word of the year is, and have a great week. And